Destin Garrick. Have you ever had a near-death experience? I mean, for real near-death experience, the type of experience where every single cell in your body thought that this may be it. This may be it. If you have, perhaps you know the feeling or the experience of whether it's feeling like your life is flashing before your eyes, that's or it maybe even something a little bit more in slow-mo of just being in deep reflection, looking back at the life that you've lived, the choices you've made, the triumphs and the mistakes, all that you're grateful for, and perhaps all that you regret. And when we have this kind of experience, well, we could go in one of two directions, assuming we survive. You can allow it to decimate you. You could allow it to just cause you to let go of any hope, reinforce any beliefs that this is just a uncaring, unfeeling, cruel world. And why you? Why me? Why this happened to me? Why do I have to suffer like this? What did I do? And maybe you even have moments of this, but there is another direction. And that is to use this moment, and sometimes this may happen really consciously, sometimes it may just seem like it occurs where there's some form of a deeper awakening that occurs in the face of death, a realization of what's really important and what's not, and with that a letting go of so much that's you realize this really doesn't fucking matter. And with that, a deepening of clarity of who you really want to be, how you really want to be, and what kind of life you really want to be living, and what kind of a impact or legacy do you want to be leaving. Near-death experiences can be incredibly powerful things. And something that can rock your world, bring you to your knees, bring you to that point of thinking, this is it, I'm done. Or in a moment, maybe feeling like you were cursed. Can be mined or turned in such a way that they become a blessing. A blessing. Something that you can even look back at as something that you can even be grateful for having experienced. Well, clearly I've had some of my own touch points with such things, and that's why I can speak to it. But today I'm bringing on a guest, somebody who is special to me. His name is Larry Davidson, and he had a near-death experience a few months ago. We'll get more into that in a moment. But he's special to me because he's been kind of in my world, in my orbit for a decade now. When I was still much earlier in teaching this work, still very much in my erotic rockstar years, hell, even on the earlier side of my erotic rockstar years, in the early renditions of what I now call sexual self-mastery, Larry showed up, somehow found me. And truth be told, when Larry first came into my world, I underestimated him. I did. He seemed to have some pickup type stuff in his world or in his background. I wasn't really sure about him, and boy, I love being surprised in this way. Love being surprised in this way. Larry has shown me through these 10 years the power of commitment and dedication, and how it just keeps showing up. Just keep showing up, keep doing the work, and you will transform. And over this time, I have seen him grow in so many ways and become what I saw as a great, like more and more of a leader in himself, more and more secure in himself, creating better relationships and connections. And then when he has stepped in to help assist one of my sexual self mastery trainings this summer, all of a sudden I get a message from him that he can't attend and that he is really sick. And at first, of course, I didn't understand the gravity of what he was really speaking about. But over the coming week, I started to get it. But before I share any more, I think it's time for me to bring on my guest, Larry Davidson. Welcome, Larry.
Hello, Justin. Thank you for that introduction. And I do have Kleenex in case I cry, but I think I'm going to get through this. This is men talking. Last time I did this, I couldn't get through it. And that person that you
also cried.
Yeah,
That's okay. We've got all of you here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, that person that you knew 10 years ago is not me anymore. And I think that part of what evolving means is it's survival of the fittest. It's brutal. It's nature, and things got to die. And it's through the death that the weakness goes away and comes out stronger. So yes, everything you spoke about at the beginning, it was like, now what am I going to say? You're saying it already, Destin. It's like talking about, I don't remember, you said it very eloquently, but I certainly went through the why me, like, why is this happening to me?
Well, before we get into all that, why don't we speak a little bit to what actually happened? Paint us that picture.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, briefly, I don't want it to sound robotic because I've told this story. It's also on the GoFundMe page, but there's no medical explanation for exactly what caused the initial thing, but it could have been a parasite or something I ate in Mexico. And I've traveled all over the world.
So you're traveling in Mexico.
Yeah. And I've been all over the world. I've been all over the world. I've been to Cambodia and Thailand and all these third world countries. So I'm not blaming. It's not like I've eaten all kinds of stuff. So it's not like my body should be used to it. But for whatever reason, something I ate caused me to just vomit nonstop, essentially. And something ripped open in my intestines, which caused me to go sepsis, which means there's toxins leaking into my body through a leak in my intestines. But I didn't know this. I did not know this. And I was actually coaching, so I was part of the mastery program, and I was coaching somebody who was an MD. And when I told him I can't make the call because I'm sick in Mexico, he said, go to the United States right away. Don't stay there. And I didn't listen to him.
So he was a doctor, you said?
Yeah, he was a doctor. I was coaching him, and he was an MD. And I called him to tell him what was up at the very, very beginning of this illness. And he said, don't wait around in Mexico, like go right away. And I didn't do that because I can't see the future. I didn't know.
I think this is the truth is, if I were in your situation, there's a very good chance I wouldn't have listened also. And I don't say that with pride, in all honesty. It speaks to my own stubbornness. And and I think that there's an aspect that's pretty common in men. Again, not necessarily a good thing, but pretty common in men where there can be reluctance to go to a doctor in the first place. And then also, whatever, I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
Well, I mean, the official diagnosis from the doctor is, "Este señor está muy mal." This guy's really bad. That's all he said. This guy looks bad. And then they said,
"That's great. Gotta love hearing that from the doctor. This looks really bad."
And I was yellow, and they strapped. First of all, this clinic did not look like a hospital. It looked like a Eastern European army bunker or something. And it didn't have electricity. We picked a room that had light coming through the ceiling, and the diagnosis was, give me blood transfusions. And blood transfusions were not available in the clinic. My girlfriend had to walk down the street like a mile and come back with these fresh bags of blood that had names on them. It like had the person's name on it. I've told this story before, but it's like sort of, I didn't, at that point, I was starting to lose, like I was starting to get delirious, but I didn't realize how bad this was. I said, okay, I'll get a couple of blood transfusions. It wasn't a couple of blood transfusions. It was like 5 days of 2 or 3 bags a day that I had to take in advance on my credit card, because they only took cash and it like depended on the exchange rate. So at this point, I have like 10 bags or 15 bags. I don't even know how many. And I couldn't make any decisions at this point. It was just keep me alive however you can.
Mhm.
But every single day, oh, go
So I
on.
mean, at that point, isn't it? I could be wrong with this, but you're talking about that much blood being transfused. That's like a complete replacement of your
Yep.
own blood with other people's blood.
Yes. So now I have Sergio's blood and Mario's blood. I got all these people in me. Like I had nightmares about it. I'm
Well,
saying, who are these
thank God
people?
for them, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but I knew this was not what I needed. And then there was at some point I said, I don't care how much it costs, get me out of here. And there was an emergency transport service. It was literally a 5-hour ambulance ride down flooded streets, and then to a Learjet, which airlifted me to San Diego.
Mm.
But by the time I got to San Diego, that's where I started having hallucinations. And like I've done ayahuasca. I don't know if I could admit this on that, but it was sort of like similar, sort of this otherworldly. I am not in my conscious realm anymore. I'm in some other dimension, and I can't. You don't. I don't know what time it is. I don't know how many time is passing. I don't know physically. I know where I'm at, but another part of me, I don't know where I'm at. And of course that's there's physiological reasons for there's brain chemicals, but there's also, I would describe, mystical things that are common. I've read a lot about near death experiences that are kind of like can't they're all over the world, and millions of people have experienced these things, that it's not just chemicals in the brain.
Yeah. Yeah. So keep telling us about yours.
Well, I mean, there was one where at that point where it was a point of death. I knew I was at the point of death. Like my mind knew I was at the point of death, and it was really hot.
How did you
We're talking
know?
about.
How?
Well, I knew it because it was really really hot
Mm.
in San Diego. This is middle of the summer, and I'm having these visions of snow, of like just like trudging through the snow, like endless fields of snow.
Wow.
And there's a in one end there's this forest, and this other end there's this fire, and there's this voice telling me, don't go in the forest, like stay away from the forest, go to the fire. And so these things are like
Head
coming to me.
towards hell.
But on the other hand, I then I see medical people. I see myself being strapped down,
Mm.
and I'm shivering. I'm really freezing cold. Like I'm not. It's not July in the summer. They had to hold my body down. Four men had to hold my body down so they could get needles into me, so they could rush me into emergency surgery. Like they didn't even do any tests or anything. They just said, get this guy into surgery, because we have maybe seconds. We don't like this. She's on a timer at this point. Um,
Yeah, man.
and then I do remember a voice telling me, "Do you want us to revive you no matter what?" And I'm trying to like use my, like, what does that mean? Does that mean I'll be a vegetable? Like, and how do I make a decision like that? And my immediate one was like, I think I should say no, but I looked at my girlfriend and like I looked her in the eyes. I said I can't say no. I'm gonna say yes. So I don't know what I'm saying yes to, but I'm I'm gonna say yes to this. I'm gonna live no matter what.
Mm.
Um, and that was like the only decision I can remember making for like the next, I don't even know. I mean, at that point, um, I've done surrender exercises like in spiritual retreats. I
So
did like
let's explain what that means.
surrender.
Surrender exercises and retreats, like
Well, like where you do eye gazing, and you say surrender to God, or surrender, and I'm saying, okay, I'm really trying. I'm trying to surrender, and I have. There's been points where I've sort of surrendered, but
mm,
this was 100% complete surrender. Like that's the only way I could describe it. Like there was not any kind of conscious thinking, any thoughts. It was just like, take me,
take me.
do what it needs to do, the universe. And I almost like could feel myself floating at that point. Like I
Mm.
left my body. It was like floating because, and now looking back, that was like the only time I was completely able to surrender. It was like not like they said something. I can hear their voice. We're gonna do the intestines and cut them open and collage. Like they were asking me, and I don't know what you're talking about. I'm surrendered. It's like you can do what you want. I don't know. I just want to live. I just want out. And that was for me a new understanding of what it means to surrender. And now I can do it more. I can do it more in real life.
And so by surrender, you mean just a pure letting go of control, letting go of your need to determine the outcome, but simply allowing life, God, the universe, what have you, to do what it's going to do and be in full allowance. Is that right? Is that what you mean?
Exactly. Yes. My mind chatter, which I had a lot of. I mean, I had a lot of mind chatter, and even as I became evolved and as I started to learn these things, they were intellectual. But now I could say they're not intellectual anymore; they're embodied. And like
Mm.
the idea of letting go of something, and even in dating, like I can talk about how all this life experience relates to dating and relationships because, and I've known it. I mean, you taught it to me, and I knew it up here, but now it's just I don't think about it. It's just like I'm letting it go. I'm going to let it go because it's not going to serve me to think about how it could have been or what it could be or what is. I'm letting it go. But I needed to be fully surrendered in order for me to, let go of tiny little surrenders throughout the day, if that makes sense.
Fully, fully, man. So, out of curiosity, what were they doing in the surgery?
Um, Basically, my all of my organs had started to shut down, filtering out toxins. So liver was not functioning, kidneys were not functioning. They took out my appendix. They opened up in my intestines and I have a colostomy bag, which I'll talk about because I'm now dating with a colostomy bag and dancing and going to tantra events and taking my clothes off with a bag of shit hanging from my stomach. And then when I hear
Awesome.
somebody doesn't want to, they're afraid because they have a pimple on their face or something. They're afraid of talking to girls. I have a fucking colostomy bag and I'm taking my
Yeah, mindset is everything.
and in a way it's made me more confident because it's also made me like I don't give a okay, can I say the F
You can
word?
say whatever you want.
It's like
I'm pretty
I
sure
don't
I opened this conversation with
yeah,
the
yeah.
F bomb, as I
It's like
said.
I've so much I so much don't give a fuck, and
Mhm.
like I'm going on a date, which is a whole new experience. I'm going out on dates again, and my whole mentality is different.
Yeah.
And I've become like what you've been teaching me, but now it's like after what I've been through, I'm not gonna worry if she calls me back, Like I'm not gonna worry and sit at my phone and wait for her to call me back. It's not, and they do call me back because of that.
Mm. Somehow surrendering and releasing any scarcity mindset and of what's going to happen, what do you need to do, trying to like, I need to do the right thing in order to get the outcome that I want to do. In releasing all of that, you're actually getting more of what you're wanting. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, totally. Well,
Yeah.
because I think that the like whether the other person can hear your mind chatter, they can feel it. They can feel it. They can feel a woman can feel. Oh, they can see right through it. He's saying that to try to impress me, or he's saying that to. So if I'm not trying to impress anyone, then it's not running through the conversation. I mean, um, I guess I should talk about dating because this is new for me, man.
Let's get there. Let's put a little pin in that. Um, so since then, we've already been uncovering parts of this, but what was your healing process like? Like, what happened post surgery?
Look, I have to talk. I mean, it's already hinted at, but there was a breakup involved, like a relationship that was a really, really intense relationship. I love this woman, and she was with me. She was the one bringing me bags of blood, but, and then, I mean, we built a business together. I built my business around being this relationship coach in this perfect relationship, and it crashed like the Hindenburg, basically. That's all I can say. It was traumatic for her. And the idea, I was crippled, I was disabled, I was in a wheelchair, and the idea of, like, that was not part of our agreements. And there, I'm not going to say that there was no emotions involved, but at this point I can say that all of those emotions are not in my service to try to figure out all of the unanswered questions that will never be answered. All I can say is that well, I'm gonna give a quote here. Can I give a quote
Of
that
course.
I read? Yeah, it was something that says, "You don't get your heartbreak. You don't get. I don't remember the exact. You don't get your heart broken. You get your expectations broken. And when your expectations are broken, you discover your heart." And I think that's sort of like, we have expectations, whether we think we do or not. We have expectations. Like, we think, if I do this, I'm going to get, when I'm sick, someone's going to take care of me. But those are not spoken. These are not talked about. These are not, like, what happens when these tragedies happen? What happens to a relationship? And if the relationship bombs, does that mean that there was something wrong with the relationship we had before? So, there's all these questions that came up in terms of, did I fail? Like, was it something I did? Or is it just that it was really a tragic, traumatic experience, and that we, it was difficult. It was difficult it's just as difficult for me as it was for family and loved ones and the people that were around me. That's all I can say about that.
Yeah, tragic and traumatic experiences test relationships, like full on test relationships, and not everyone is going to survive that test. Um, you spoke of how we don't generally have these conversations. I will say that when all this was going on with you, and you were sharing with me about it, my wife and I went deep into these conversations as a result. So I thank you for that. And I encourage our listeners as well, particularly if you're partnered, if you're that, yeah, have these conversations. How do you handle sickness? How do you handle a great injury? How do you handle crippling experiences? How do you handle old age? Um, these things are all part of life. And this isn't so much the, what Hollywood and a lot of other of our messaging really sells us on relationship is supposed to be fun and sexy, and you're a perfect relationship means that everything is perfect all the time. And you know life carries everything. Life carries incredible highs and joys and triumphs and love and ecstasy. Life carries pain, fears, and traumas, wounds, pain, disappointments, sickness, tragedy. And so, yeah, what type of relationship are you building? And quite honestly, this is the very thing that I think had a big role in me getting clear that Ellie was the woman I wanted to be my wife, is that I didn't have this question. Um, how long ago? Probably roughly 7 years ago now. A very close friend of mine, uh, a woman, started dating a man that I introduced her to, actually. And 2, 3 months in, uh, he ended up in the hospital and nearly died. It was a shorter thing. As big of a deal it was, I still actually think yours was a bigger deal, so to speak. Not that it's a competition, um, but it was intense and it was very scary. And uh, she was at his side. She showed up every day as much as she could in the hospital with him. She was there. She was taking care of him. She made very clear she's not going anywhere. And like, it had a really big impact on me. Again, this was roughly 7 years ago. It was prior to getting into this relationship with Ellie, certainly prior to our engagement and marriage. Um, there was this feeling inside of me that woke up of like, that beyond and any all of these other things that I've been like wanting, seeking, looking for in a woman in all the various relationships that I've had, that is what I want. I want that knowing that this person that I'm with has my back through the thick of it, through the totality of it, of life. And my prior relationships, I never had that type of a confidence in the in in that relationship. And with the woman who's now my wife, like when I had that question, like it wasn't a question. There was this deep knowing, and that's one of the big things that really solidified for me. Like this is what I need. And I get different people, and certainly at different points in life, you want and need different things in relationship. But life is life is short, life is long. It's one of those paradoxes, and with it comes all of the human experience.
Well, I can't say that there's no emotion listening to you, and I also have to say that this is probably the first time that I'm so grounded speaking about this because the weight of it is, I mean, it was a lot for me to go through at the time, and yet the fact that I could just sit here and talk about it, and I can feel the emotions, and yet I could be here now and
Yeah.
say that all of it is a gift, because now I am going to show up. First of all, I'm much clearer in terms of what I want, and I know what I want now, and I don't think I did then. I thought I've always evolved me. Like this relationship was better than the one that I had last. It was a great relationship, and the
Mhm.
one before that was a great relationship. This one was better. So I don't know what's next, but I know that going into it, I'm very clear in terms of I need that, like I need to know that you got my back, that I need to know
The
that.
gift of the colostomy bag.
But
It's the gift of the colostomy bag, you know? I mean, any woman you're getting in deep with, if they're seeing and knowing and in acceptance and embracing of that,
it's a screen already, and I thought that I'm out of the race. I'm thought out of the running. There were so many things, so many when this first happened. I did not think I did. There were so many things I thought I could not do again, that I wouldn't be able to do. And those are all stories, they're all stories because you can do them, but you got to compensate. Like even I have to be completely aware of this colostomy bag. It was sometimes it leaks, or I have to, when I go out, if I go on a trip, I have to. It's like a constant reminder, and it will be reversed hopefully. So it's not going to be a
oh,
permanent
great.
condition. Yeah, I hopefully it's going to be reversed, and I will always remember it.
Sure.
And I will remember that I went out and I went dancing and I went to tantra events and I went dating with this damn thing. So if I could do it with it, imagine how much more confident I'll be without it. And I'm confident with it. So um, because what if I don't get in a relationship? It doesn't matter. I there's all those like Facebook memes and cliches that come up, love yourself or all that BS. Like it's I understand it intellectually, but on the other hand, it's true, and it's true. It's all true. Like all live in gratitude, all that those Facebook memes. You know what I'm talking
All that BS, living gratitude, love yourself, all that crap. It actually has
about.
some truth to it.
And like right now, I want to. I would. It would be nice to be in a relationship, and I'm not. It's not. I'm learning a lot about myself, and I'm enjoying the space to write, and
Mhm.
and I'm still in pain from what happened. I mean, I can't deny that. I'm still I'm still going through um, that. I was traumatized, and then traumatized on top of that because a breakup is already traumatic, and it was like it actually affected my health. So it was trauma upon trauma, and yet um, I still think it was good. I don't know how to explain it. I still think that it gave me a lesson that I needed to learn. It allowed me to evolve by eliminating any remnants of weakness that I still had in terms of how I show up in relationships. Um,
Mm.
and
Which
so
brings
yeah.
us deeper into dating, which you wanted to speak more about.
Well, I was good. I was good, like healing and being by myself and all that. And I said, "What? Let me just try one of these dating apps." So, I start texting back and forth with this woman, and um, I'm not gonna. I don't. The beautiful thing is, I don't know where this is gonna go.
Sure.
But on the very first date, I already like I talked about everything. I just like laid it all on the table, and even I said, and this has to be sexual at some point, and this is what I like sexually. And I never would have done that before. It was like I was like, I don't have anything to lose.
Mm.
This is an experiment, and I'm gonna experiment this way. I'm gonna like put it all out front, and it seems like she's really into me. That's all I could say. Like we went on a second date, and then the second day we had even more intimate talk in terms of STDs and testing and all of that, and what I went through and what I want and what I'm expecting, and I just kind of was very clear. And before there would have been a lot more game playing, and I have
There,
no idea where this is going.
there's this fantastic line from Janis Joplin of "Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose,"
Mhm.
and that's what I got when you were sharing there. Is that with this step, there was just a what do you have to lose?
I
You
can tell you one thing,
please.
like our fear, what we create in our mind, in our anxiety, is that this girl is going to reject me, I'm going to die. And I can tell you, having real death to compare with, it's not the same. And like now I know that, but in like my past, like the anxiety would be the equivalent of dying. Like, oh, this girl is not calling me back, I went out on a date and she doesn't love me, and oh my god, I'm dying. No, you're not fucking dying. you know you're not, because I know what dying is like, and it's like excruciating pain beyond your imagination, and you're not getting that when someone doesn't text you back. We're inventing it, we're creating it, and having been there, I can like now my mind knows the difference. Before, I don't think my mind knew the difference. Like my mind would, she's not texting me back. I created a pain that didn't even exist. That was all in my head, and I think we all men do that. We do that.
Yeah.
Does this make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Are there any other things that you've noticed on this side of the near-death experience that's different than it was before?
Yeah, I wish it was live so we could have questions. That would be awesome. But we'll just have to watch this replay. I would just say that people have commented how much more present I am, and I think that has to do with. I even think that was the image of me being in the snow and taking one step at a time. Like that was the image. Like you're walking through the snow, and it's like one step and then another step. And then I remember I was before the hospitalization when I was in Mexico when my organs were shutting down. I was in I can't even, I don't remember it now, fortunately, but I do remember that the pain was like excruciating, and like beyond that. And it was like all different. There was burning and fiery, and like Eskimos have named for snowflakes. I have named for pain because it was all different kinds of it. And I remember thinking, shit, this is gonna last all night. This is gonna last for days and days and days. So I just said, I'm gonna slice this into a second. So like I'm gonna get through 1 second of this, and I would congratulate myself. Like I got through a second. Now I'm gonna get through another second, and I'm just gonna get. And literally, I saw time like a loaf of this, like a slinky, and just said 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, and I brought that into my experience now of saying I'm here right now, and that's all this stuff you taught me, and that stuff I knew here, but it's different now, having
There's
gone through
that
that.
level of presence
Yeah.
and just being here in this moment, out of your mind chatter, out of like, okay, what's this next second even going to bring, or what am I supposed to do, and just really what is happening right now, being with what is right now.
Mhm. And the same with the relation, whatever happens with this particular one. I'm not projecting. I'm not wondering where it's going to go. I'm not. I don't have elaborate plans. I don't. I'm like I'm able to have it be organic and keep it or let it go. It doesn't matter. It doesn't, because I have much more patience now. Like I just have so much more patience. Like people don't have patience. Like they want it now, and I have my life. So like as long as I'm alive, it's like it doesn't have to happen right now. I trust that it will happen. So that's another thing. I gain presence and I gain patience, um, and and
Patience is a really powerful thing. It is something that definitely, like, it's definitely something that I've learned with time. I have far more patience than I ever had before. I look at it as one of the greatest gifts of having children later in life, at 40 rather than at 25 or 20 for that matter. Um, that while I might not have the energy that I used to have, I have infinitely more patience, and it certainly helps with having a child. And I would expect, though who knows, that patience will only further develop as I continue to get older. So, how do you feel that patience has really been affected by this experience?
well, I mean, I think part of the near-death experiences is a different perspective of time. I mean, there was a literally this gap between life and death where there was no time. Like it could have been a minute in real time because there was a point where I flatlined. I haven't really told that story, and I don't think I will at this point. But I don't know how long.
Hold on a second. You can't just drop that and be like, "Yeah, I'm not going to talk about
Well, I mean,
it."
I don't know.
So,
Essentially, I flatlined, and
uh,
the woman was there. She was a witness to it. The nurse said. Then at the end of it, I was trying to put together. I just wanted to make sure this really happened because I somehow even in my state of discombobulation that I was at, where I was barely conscious, like I knew that something happened that I was going to need to talk about later. So like I asked the nurses like, what happened? So I had a choice. So there was a flat line, and there was like a moment where I had a choice, and the choice would be to just give it up. Give up, just keep my eyes closed, and that would be it. And then, for some reason, not for some reason, first of all, my partner, the one that is no longer with me, but I heard her voice say, "Stay, don't leave us. We love you. Stay with us." That voice saved my life. That voice, and it was a decision. I know it was a decision. It wasn't made on a conscious level. And then all of a sudden, like I got up, I like burst. It was like I became this monster. Like there were these tubes in my throat, and I just wanted to tear everything out. IVs in my arms. It's just like I came to life, like Frankenstein kind of thing.
oh,
It was like a burst of energy, and then it was like a fall back into my thing, and in that moment, there was no time. There was no time. There was no space. And also the moments just before the surgery, when I was actually conscious, when I first got rushed into emergency, it was the same thing. There was no time, no space. So if time doesn't exist, then what difference if it happens a week from now or a year from now? Like that's why I became patient. I like my brain has now processed a different thing about time. Like time is not so urgent that it needs to happen right now. Like when is right? What is right now? And plus, even if it happens, it's going to be gone. So I just have downloaded a different time framework, which has allowed me to be more patient.
amazing, man. Really amazing. Do you have any? Oh, let's speak about this GoFundMe campaign. It's honestly, I find it a tragedy that this is the state of our medical system in the United States. I mean, on one hand, what gratitude that we can have for the fact that crowdsourcing for medical expenses and such has become a thing. Like and that there's a generosity amongst people to feel, to have empathy, and to want to help and support, because this type of situation can happen to anyone, and if it happens to you, of course you would hope that there would be those to help support you. So how can you be of support? And that's wonderful. And it's a tragedy that we have to do such things. That in the what's supposedly the richest country in the world and is in the worst shape of the development of the developed world when it comes to providing medical care for its citizens. My wife is Japanese, and um, she finds the medical system here abhorrent. Like when she has something going on, there are times she's just like, I kind of just want to go back to Japan and get taken care of there. And that's horrible. What is it gonna take, really? I mean, I spent a decade from like 26 to 36 with no health insurance whatsoever. And I have some likely now permanent medical issues as a result of not getting care when I needed it because I didn't want to go to the doctor or the emergency room because I couldn't pay for it. And so things continue in my system as a result. The system's fucked. And something that has to change. I certainly have my hesitations or concerns uh, uh, about like Medicare for all, single payer system, because basically anytime I deal with anything having to do with the government, it makes me want to tear my hair out. There's truth to that. And at the same time, I just think like we can't keep having system like situations like this. I mean, you're not even like there are people in so much worse situations than yourself. You have a good job that you've been working in for decades. Where you have uh, insurance of some form. I'm sure you can speak to that. Um, you are a strong contributing member of society, and still, how has this affected you from a financial perspective?
Well, I mean, I do have insurance, and most of the medical costs in the United States were covered. Otherwise, I would be who knows, 20 days in intensive care. I'm $5,000 a night. I don't know. Most of the costs had to do with emergency airlifts, which were $12,000. The bags of blood, $600 each. None of that is covered. None of the clinics in Mexico, all of that stuff is not covered. So it was that was lack of coverage. Most of it was cash that was taken out in cash in advance. So I just came home basically to about $40,000 debt, um, and plus not being able to work. And even though I have the disability allows me to keep my job, but it didn't pay me for my lost wages. But that's just the beginning. I mean, there's a lot of different costs and I feel really uncomfortable. Like this, I felt really, really supported by this campaign, and uncomfortable at the same time. Um,
Totally, totally.
you
I get
know, and on the other hand, I, I lost a lot. Absolutely lost a lot. I went through a lot, absolutely. And yes, there are people worse. Not only are there people worse than me, I spent some time in a rehab center when I couldn't walk. A rehab center, basically, I don't old age home. I don't know what to call it. And I was able to walk out of there, and there's people that live there, and that was probably the most sobering experience of my life, being in that place. That medical care, I could go on forever. That's not, they don't provide, those people do not get the care that they need. And the aftercare, like the hospital is the beginning of it. It's the aftercare. That's when people need support. People need emotional support. I even look for support groups and I can't find any. Like what I went through is traumatic. As I say, I lost my lover over it. I had a family member who couldn't be with me. And where do you process? Like, you don't want to talk about your pain and everything because it turns people off. It makes people not even want to be with you. But on the other hand, you're alone. You're like, who do I talk to? Um, it's, I would say that there needs to be a lot more emphasis on the aftercare part of it. What happens when you leave the hospital, like the gap between being back on your feet again. I did that. I was on my own pretty much. I mean, my family was there, but that was definitely the hardest part. And in a way, I rushed through it because I needed, like, I probably rushed through it. I started working too early. All these things that I'm doing, in a way, it was to not be in that gap period of healing,
Mhm.
because it was hard to do by myself. So
Yeah,
I'd rather be at work around people than just be healing. And then yeah, I mean, and there are ways to have better care. And there are calls to doctors and health insurances that I would be on hold forever and not call back. I wasn't getting the supplies. Like, it took me months to get the right supplies that I need, colostomy supply. I had to order it on Amazon.
So getting back to, we can do better. We could do better as a country, as a society, uh, to care for our sick, and to care for the vulnerable, wherever they are, whatever, are young, are elderly, are sick, are vulnerable. Like, when we are strong, why not contribute more? When we are able, show up. And so, Larry, how can people be of support?
I mean, the GoFundMe is there to support me. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the contribution. Also, it makes me, it helps me with the story that it helps me understand that there's a reason that I'm here, that I went through all that I chose to live, because there's something that I got from this experience that is worth something that's not monetary, but like a message that's like showing the support that what I have to say. No, the tears come. I knew they would fucking come.
Yeah, man, let it flow. Take a breath, or the tissue. Either way, both.
I hope this isn't tissue. I don't even know. I think that's a tissue. Yeah, but I went through this for a reason. I know that. That's a download that I was given. Like, whatever, I had a smaller voice before. I have a bigger voice now. I have more to say now, and I can say it with conviction. I think I had stuff to say before, and the conviction wasn't there. I needed to go through this to evolve, to have a message, and I still don't know what my form is or what. So it's like I have a direction, and I have a voice, and I have a message, and I have teaching, and I have something to transmit.
Yeah, man. As long as I've known you, you have been doing one training after another certification, or more education, a new seminar, just been in deep self-development and training externally and internally, prepping you. And as you said, like, now you've been given added conviction. And as Marianne Williamson says, conviction is a force multiplier. Takes whatever it is that you are doing, wherever you're pointing yourself towards, and it multiplies it. So everyone keep an eye on Larry Davidson. Let's see where he goes from here. I think it's you're going to be one to watch. So I'm going to place in the comment section, or for the podcast in the show notes, this GoFundMe link. Please do contribute if you're able to. Whatever you can, anything helps. It adds energetically, it adds some support, helps him see that people still care. And again, it's good karma, so to speak. It's every one of us, sooner or later, is in a time of need. And when we're in that time of need, I know we hope and want others to be showing up for us. So show up, support. And I want to thank you, Larry. Thank you for sharing your story, your vulnerability here with us, and even your tears. That itself can be positive modeling. And thank you for all the ways in which you've shown up for the Evolve Masculine over the years.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, and it was a pleasure to be on this. And I hope that these words are of service.